Hello, everyone. It's Mike Geeter, SamRose Entertainment, and I'd like to introduce you to the person that is running this discussion. It's my partner in crime with SamRose and Duke.
Welcome to the SamRose Entertainment Workshop Series. My name is Ann Duke. I'm with SamRose Entertainment, and I'm so excited to be here with you today. Today, we are going to talk about 5 tips for emceeing comedy shows. This is valuable information for anybody getting into the comedy scene. We have a very special guest with us today. I'm so excited to have her with us. Let me tell you a little bit about her. Our guest has been on the comedy scene for over 24 years. And she, like many of us, started by taking classes at Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle. And from there, she just blew up. She's performed with national headliners, including Greg Giraldo, Jeff Dunham, Pauly Shore, John Heffron, you name it. She's also been seen at the Laugh-A-Palooza at Meadowbrook Music Theater, the Magic Bag in Ferndale, Margaritaville in New Orleans, and all of the clubs and shows across Michigan. Our friend also is well known because she booked the Holly Hotel for over 17 years. She has performed across North America, and she takes everyday life experiences and plucks the funny out of them, creating immediate bonds with audiences. She also has been married for a very long time, so she taps into that part of her life. She is a lawyer by trade, which is very interesting, although she no longer practices. And she is a graduate of University of Michigan, as am I, so that gives me an immediate bond to her. I am so excited to bring her to you today. Let me introduce Connie Ettinger. Hi,
Thank you
Connie.
so much, Ann. I truly appreciate the very nice intro. Go blue. That's all I can say right
Yes,
now.
exactly. It's so nice to see you here on the screen with us together to help some of our comedy friends learn some new skills, maybe grab a few new tips, and hopefully follow the same path that you have and become really a household name in Michigan comedy.
Well, I guess I'm a household name, but I'm more of a rest area name, I think. But
I do believe I might have seen your name on a wall at a rest area now that I think about that.
yeah, the one on
So
75 northbound, just before
that's a good
Holly.
one. This time of year, especially a lot of activity on those roads. At the Welcome Center, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Yes. So I guess in the interest of time, let's just jump right into the discussion with our 5 tips for emceeing comedy shows. All right, here is Connie's her first tip. Make the audience feel welcome right off the bat. Tell us a little bit more about what you mean by that, Connie.
Well, you as the MC are the host of the party. And the important thing to remember too is it's somebody else's party. It's not your party. It's not all about you. So one of the first things you have to learn to do as a comedian is read the room. I had
Mhm.
a dear friend who is no longer with us, but he told me, walk the room before they know who you are. Just go through it, see what the vibe is like. Is there a particular area of the room where they're having issues and fighting, or is everybody in a good mellow mood? And that will help you a great deal.
You know, I've
But
done that in my career as well and have found that very helpful. It's easy to spot the groups of ladies or somebody you know, perhaps, or somebody might look like they're not too happy to be there. So once you've read the room, then, what are the next steps in helping to make them feel welcome?
well, when you come out on stage, generally you'll be coming from off stage, hopefully, and you want to bounce out there. I mean, not literally bounce out, but you want to bring a lot of energy because you might have to wake these people up. They're usually coming in at around 7:30. They may have gotten home at like 5:30 and taken a little nap and are not
Mhm.
fully awake yet. So you want to boom, grab their attention and wake
Yep.
them the heck up.
Right out of the gate. Um, how do you feel about when you're doing your set in the beginning? Are you sensitive to try to stay away from topics or premises that you know the other comics are going to be doing? Is that something as part of your process that you look into?
I don't try to stay away from stuff other comics are doing. The one thing I do stay away from is politics. I
Yes.
don't ever get into politics because you'll just spend the rest of the night fighting with at least half of the audience.
Right.
So,
No, my approach is wanting them to be rooting for me. So
yes,
I like
they have
you.
to like you.
Yeah, exactly. I think, this idea that you're coming to a party and we're really the person opening the door, right?
Right.
We're
And you're
not we're
handing
not
them a
the
drink
birthday
and taking
girl.
their coat. So
Right.
not literally, but
Exactly.
that they
Exa-
should feel that way, that it's your house that they're entering, and that you are trying your best to make them feel happy and welcome and
Right.
relaxed.
Right. And then of course keeping that energy up throughout the show right until the end is so important.
Yes,
Awesome.
sometimes when I'm in the second show of the night, I'm like back there slapping myself. Seriously,
It's hard work.
it is.
People a lot of people view emceeing as a stepping stone, but to me, I think it's one of the toughest jobs in comedy and one of the toughest things to really master.
I couldn't agree with you more. The fact that some people view it as a stepping stone is because of certain bookers who treated it that way. And
Right.
fortunately, they are no longer as dominant in the field as they once were. But you never went from uh, MC to headliner. You climbed up those stairs, and
Right.
you had to beg to be moved up to the next step. I had a lot of problems getting out of the MC spot because I did one heck of a job.
I hear you. I suffer from that as well sometimes. And I see so many talented comics that are featuring that just aren't, their tone or something about them just is not right as an MC. So I don't think that progression from one to the next always holds true, you
I
know?
agree with you completely. The feature spot rather is the biggest cake spot in the entire show. You've been
Right.
set up by the MC. You don't have to worry about closing out the room when they're drunk and going over. Look at the bill. I didn't order tax on my.
Yeah.
So you don't have to deal with those things, and
Right.
people getting up to get a beat on traffic. So you don't have to worry about people walking out and you wondering if you did it. So I
Exactly.
you know, but uh, being the MC is, because it still is viewed by a lot of bookers as the stepping stone, is critical, not just to uh, getting hired, but also to setting the tone. Like I said, you got to read your audience, you got to know them, you have to make them feel welcome right from the get.
Perfect. All right, let's move on to our second tip. Doing material between sets. It depends. Tell us what you're thinking there.
Oh, I've seen some disasters, and I hope I've never done any of them. But let's say there's a feature who goes up and they eat it. We used to call it eating cheese off the big wheel.
Yeah.
And and some guys will go like, "Hey, he really knows how to clear a room." No, don't do that. Don't talk about their performance unless it's in a very positive fashion. Don't try to do any material to bring them back either, because you might fail as badly as they did. The audience could have turned for some reason. We just don't know why. So, my thought on that one is you should say their name again, get some applause going, and then just bring up your next act.
Right, right. I agree. I think as a general rule, it's not a good idea. I'm not sure when it is a good idea, but I've yet to see a case where and we've all seen it. We've seen MCs that are doing, and a lot of people that run open mics, they're just, they're doing 2 minutes in between every open micer, and that just gets
Mm-hmm.
tedious and it doesn't keep the show moving forward. So I'm with you on that. No
Yeah, the
jokes in
only
between sets.
No, I'm sorry. Yeah, the only time that I would do that, if there's something very easy to tag that was just given to you, it's like a gift, low hanging fruit, grab
Right.
it, go with it, and then introduce your next comedian. Because your job is
Exactly.
also to keep the show moving. Presumably, you've been given a deadline by which they want everybody out of the room.
Right, right. I find quite often I find a little nugget in the feature set that I can do some kind of callback to, just to,
Mm-hmm.
kind of reiterate their joke. But again, good point. All right, let's move on to the third tip. Never comment on the comic who just finished unless it's positive.
Yeah, that can be the worst. I've seen people just bring shows to a screeching halt by saying something like, "Boy, this guy really knows how to clear a room," and was he hiding his MAGA hat in the back and somebody saw him, or anything that is negative or derogatory toward the performer who just went up, because a lot of people in that room may still like him. They were just afraid to laugh because laughter is contagious. If the people around you aren't laughing, you may
Right.
not be laughing. So
Exactly.
you just have to be very careful.
I think on that same front, another thing that I see comics do sometime, which I think is really bad practice, is to take a shot at the venue. Right? You see that
Oh,
all the time.
don't do
"Oh my
that.
god, I look like I'm in my garage," or, "Geez,
I
the
had more
dressing
people
room
than this in
sucks."
my bathtub last night. That,
Right.
you're working you're working that room. You're denigrating yourself by doing that. Don't do that.
Exactly.
That's just
Exactly.
simple.
That's a
Don't do it.
no-no, for sure.
Yes.
All right. Let's see here. Okay, let's look at what number 4 is. Intros. Make them enthusiastic and accurate.
Yes. Nothing is worse, in my opinion, than a Stephen Wright sort of intro where they come out slogging. The MC puts the mic stand back in front and says, "Let's hear it for Edward Smith." And then they read a bunch of announcements that is guaranteed to put the crowd asleep. So, and then they say, "Does anybody have a birthday?" Everybody in the damn room has a birthday. It may not
Right.
be that day, but you don't ask dumb questions like that are going to bring the show to a screeching halt. You've been given, if you haven't already asked your other performers for their intros, ask them. You should carry 3x5 cards at all times and Sharpies. Get their intros because you don't want to hope that you'll remember. I remember a horrible incident on my own part. Guy I'd worked with us several times and I blanked on his name. I'm going like, our next comedian is a great guy. He's a wonderful friend of mine, and you've seen him all over, maybe in your backyard, peeking at you. And please let's make welcome. Oh shit. So yeah, that's bad. Have it written down so at least you have
Yeah.
a cue for yourself.
Totally. I emceed for a national headliner once who had a very difficult name to pronounce, and I nailed it twice, but I totally flubbed it one time, and I kind of murmured off a little bit, so you couldn't quite tell what I was saying. But I've had that happen for sure, and I think having accurate information, as you say, is super important. You know. And I find a lot of, especially national headliners, when you say, "Hey, what can I include in your intro?" "Oh, nothing. Just say I'm a funny guy from LA." Well, that I need a little bit more than that. And so early on for me, I was emceeing at a club and the headliner didn't really give me anything to work with. So I did a couple things, said a few things about him anyway. And he walked on stage in the middle of my introduction. And I thought, "Oh my God,
Whoa.
did I?" It turned out later it was a bit that he does all the time. But
Okay.
I thought that, okay, I went too far and now he's just gonna shame me. Didn't turn out to be that, but it was a frightening moment on stage when I turned around and he was standing right there. So,
Yes. Or
it's tricky.
you see the headliner from backstage just flipping you off and sharpening his knife. So
Right, right.
that's a bad feeling. So
And you
one
mentioned go
oh,
ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Ann.
No, I was gonna talk about something else. So finish your thought.
I had a friend who was an MC in a show, and this was when the Olsen twins were really big, and so the headliner gave him his introduction as he's had sex with both of the Olsen twins. And so he thought that was he thought that was the intro. He did it as given to him and was viciously chewed out by the headliner. If you don't want to make stuff up that you don't want said, don't write it down on your little card.
Right, right, exactly. And those little cards are I know a lot of comics say, "Oh, you should never take a set list," or there are a lot of schools of thought on that. But when you're emceeing, I think to make sure that you get the intro right, most people are fine with that.
Absolutely. And look at Jean Ann Garofalo. It hasn't held her back, has it? She takes notes all the time.
Yep. I mean, nowadays you see comics on stage with their cell phone in their hand, which I'm
Right.
not a big fan of, but it's become more and more acceptable across the industry.
No, I
All
saw
right.
Richard Lewis with like 12 sheets of paper taped together, but he was doing a lot of drugs back then. But
Yeah.
it's, you're better if you can appear as though it's just coming out of your brain at that
Right.
moment.
You know, if people always, memorization is so important in our business. And I think that's why a lot of people have a lot of nerves in the beginning because they just haven't done their material enough to have it memorized.
Mm-hmm.
And I've worked with comics that had like, big sheets of paper all over the floor of the stage, which is kind of a disservice to the other comics on the bill.
Right.
But it is a trick, and it just comes with time. I don't know about you, but the more you do it, it becomes
Oh,
embedded in your brain.
absolutely. And certain people learn in different ways. Some people learn by hearing it, so they'll tape record it and play it over and
Right.
over again. I'm not. I'm the person who sees the words in her head. And
Right.
there, I do one bit where I do this long list and it's alphabetical. Very few
Yeah.
people notice that it's alphabetical, but that's the way my brain has to process it.
Yeah. I'm a visual thinker as well. So when I write my material, I write it like on 20 point, really big. And then I'm
Mm-hmm.
in my head picturing that page. And now I know I'm at the top of page 2. So yeah, I think it has to do with whether you're visual, auditory, all of those things. You touched on recording. Do you record your sets?
I record most of them. I don't necessarily do a video on all of them because it's just sort of cumbersome to set things up. But
Right.
I record every single set in an audio fashion because you have no reason not to anymore. You've got your iPhone or
Right.
your Android, whatever it is, but it's so easy to do. And
And
if you have a great idea on stage, you just go back, rewind, boom. That's the
yeah.
thing I didn't want to forget.
Yeah, it's so helpful. I totally agree. All right, let's talk about tip number 5. Be prepared to do anything management asks of you. All
Okay,
right.
this would be the do announcements about who's coming up next week. It would also be, I can tell you a few strange things that I've been asked to do. Um, when I was working with Greg Morton, he did the takeoff on When Harry Met Sally, where Sally is faking the orgasm in the deli,
Mhm.
and he would collect. It was amazing. Would collect like $500 from the audience. He just said, "Everybody give Connie $1," and I'd run around get money from everybody. But all the women had the first woman who would go up and fake the orgasm had a hard time getting started because she's doing something completely foreign to her, except maybe in the privacy of her own bedroom. So we had he told me we were sitting at the bar after the show, and he said, "I want you to go out and buy the biggest black dildo you can find." And I'm going,
They don't make small ones,
okay.
do they?
No, they don't. And so I'm calling around the next day. Hello, do you have an enormous black dildo? No, it's not really for me, but it's kind of for me.
Yeah. Oh,
And what
yeah.
he wanted me to
Sure.
do was, put BOB on it, which stood for battery operated boyfriend. But to me, headliners are the same as management. You're going to listen to them. If they tell you, uh, go clean the snow off my car, you're going to do it.
Right.
I remember once I was sent out to find a headliner who was having an assignation in the back of his car in the middle of the freezing winter in the parking lot and knock
Oy.
on the thing and say, uh, "You need to get on stage." That was mortifying. And he ate it too. That was bad,
There's
bad
nothing
set.
worse than when one of your comics just disappears, right? We've all had
Yes,
that happen. It's like, okay, it's 1 minute. Where is he? Where is she? Oh, they're in the restroom. And now you're like, okay, here's another one I wanted to ask you about because I had this experience. Managing the light is tricky. And it's different. At a lot of places, you don't have to, but most times you do. And I had a horrifying experience early on at Mark Ridley's where I gave the light to the feature 3 minutes before I should have. And then I had no way, other than short of going out into the audience and just going like this, I
right.
I there was no way to remedy it. Luckily, he was timing himself as well, and so he kinda split the difference. But, we'll put that in the list of nightmares when emceeing. So,
Absolutely. And that's something, once you see it, you can't unsee it. Once you have lit somebody, you can't unlight them.
yeah, we
So
can't unring that bell. Nope.
no.
So, this has been so much fun. Do you have any other thoughts or things you'd like to share with our friends today?
If you're thinking of giving up your professional job to do comedy, don't do it.
Yeah.
Please, for the love of God and your own family,
Yeah.
do not do
Keep
it.
keep
But
that cushion.
there's nothing. I mean, I've had some great things happen to me in my career as an attorney, but quite frankly, nothing compares to hearing a room full of people roaring at you. It's hard
Exactly.
work, but you
Yeah.
will get there if you try.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, this has been so much fun. Connie, it is always so great to talk to you. I'm glad
And
you
the
were here
same here,
today.
Ann. I think we're like related somehow, but don't know it.
Yes, I think so too, or sisters from different mothers, perhaps.
That's
But either
right.
way, I have the most respect and admiration for you. You are a legend. And if I can accomplish even half in my career what you have, I will consider that a win. So,
And I will
again,
just say ditto to you because you are taking on things that nobody at your level would have thought of taking on a few years ago.
well, we're ambitious over at SamRose. We've got big plans. But again, thank you so much. Thank you to all of our listeners. We appreciate you joining us today. Keep an eye out for more SamRose entertainment workshops, and be well. Thanks, friends.
Bye, everybody.